At the Smithsonian NMAI, there were whistles and squawkers and noisemakers, and they were in the shapes of killer whales and birds, and I probably saw 200
Wow.
varying whistles and noisemakers and things like that. So it's a part of the Northwest Coast that I don't think a lot of people know existed. Tlingit, Haida, Tsimshian, Kwakiutl, all the way up and down the coast use these sorts of things. I mean, they had examples in all those provinces. So
I've seen a lot of dance groups performing, and I haven't seen a lot of these wind instruments being used. Now, maybe in British Columbia and Canada, they might be in a little more use, because back when some of the traditions went away, especially for us here in like Metlakatla, pretty much we gave up most all the traditions, so they're not really back in use in Metlakatla yet, but I think there are some people that might use them. I think it's kind of a limited thing, and I don't know a lot about how they're being used today. A long time ago on the old Northwest Coast, I think these wind instruments were used for all sorts of different things. They were used in dance ceremonies. Some of them had bellows, and they could be stuck under a dancer's arm, and when he moved his arm, the bellows would make a little woo woo through the whistle, and those were used for various reasons. And in certain winter ceremonies and things, the sounds of whistles signified a supernatural event or something magical that was happening. They were used to call out to spirits, and I think they were used to ask something to happen sometimes too. So we're making whistles in my high school class, and I told the students that I wanted them to put a meaning to their whistle. What did they want it to be used for? One of the ones I really liked was one of the young ladies in my class said, well, I would like to make my whistle to represent the sun, because here in Southeast Alaska, we don't get enough sun. So when I blow on this whistle, I'm asking the universe to bring some sun to me today. So I thought that was kind of cool. So I think there's some things like that where people can use them to create an intention for something they'd like to happen. With this class that we're doing here at the Heritage Center, there's some people taking the class that are in dance groups, and I think they're very excited about learning to make these. And a lot of what we're doing in modern times is we're trying to figure out how to take some of these traditional things and make them more relevant to our lives today, because we're not living like we did, hundreds of years ago. So we're going to start finding new meanings and new ways to use these sorts of traditional instruments, but maybe for more relevant ways for us today. And I'm really hoping that they do start becoming more prevalent within the dance groups and things, because I think they'll really bring a wonderful element back into the dances and the ceremonies that's kind of been missing for a little while. When we were all learning how to do these things, back when this art form was at its peak, it had thousands of years of stuff being passed on. So the lucky guy who was 2,000 years down the road was getting 2,000 years of artists put into him. We don't quite have that now. We're starting to get it back, but with this class and with more people learning these things, hopefully somebody tries something and goes, hey, you know what? Guess what happens if you do this? Because we don't always have the time to try all that stuff. And we don't always think the same thoughts. So that's one of the cool things where maybe if people start making whistles, we stay in touch and say, hey, guess what? I learned how to make a crazy little fluctuation in the sound by causing an obstacle inside of the whistle. I have a bucket full of halves that I'm experimenting with, and it's like, okay, you're now kindling. you know. Okay, you're now kindling. But then, you know, I'll try something because I'm always wondering those same things. Like, I wonder if I do this, what will happen? There's only one way to know, and that's to put in and to try it. I think one of the really cool things about teaching something is that you really don't know how much you don't know about something until you're trying to convey it to others. And one of the nice things about this class has been, there's been 6 or 7 people making whistles, and I think everybody is kind of discovering new and different little things. And so that's part of when you bring a group of people together working on the same sort of a project. Instead of just you sitting alone by yourself, you know, coming up with things, you start having a little think tank of people who are having ideas of, oh, now that I have this information back and I can make these, here's ways I think they could be used. When we're making the instruments, there's been little discoveries on how to make them sound different and things like that. So it's been interesting for me to kind of see other people's takes on these instruments, and I'm learning a tremendous amount more about them through teaching, you know. So if that makes sense, I'm learning more through the teaching process, and it causes me to kind of look deeper into the workings of these sorts of instruments too, to be able to convey that to somebody else. But I'm really excited to have more people making them, and to be sharing with people ways they think they might want to use them, and maybe little variations on them that they've discovered to make them sound different. So the more people making them and working on them, I think starts bringing back the level of where they used to be, you know, because it gets more minds and artists and dancers involved. So the more people doing this, I think the more exciting the usage of them is going to get to be again.